When the news of the bombing came out, it was a massive story in Germany.
We are following some breaking news coming to us out of Dortmund in Germany.
It was covered by all the media outlets.
3 roadside explosions triggered at the same time last night as the coach left its hotel in the south of Dortmund.
Public figures commented on it.
We should not let them affect our life, whoever it was.
The media echo went far beyond Dortmund.
I think it was front page news in every single big paper around Europe. Everyone thought of like a terrorist attack, and people were scared that throughout the city in Dortmund there was more attacks to be happening.
Unbeknownst to investigators, just after the bomb went off and the players of the team were shell-shocked, the person who had masterminded the attack was actually sitting in the hotel eating steak and sweet potatoes. My name is Thomas Rogers. I'm the journalist who wrote the article, The Get-Rich-Quick Scheme That Nearly Killed a German Soccer Team. Dortmund is a mid-sized city in the western part of Germany in a state called North Rhine-Westphalia. And it's a former industrial city that's kind of fallen on hard times in the last few decades. It was severely bombed in the war, so the center of the city is quite stark. Some of the few high points include its soccer team.
My name is Ike Henning. I'm a reporter with Bloomberg News, and I'm a great fan of Borussia Dortmund. Dortmund fans are super loyal. On all match days, the entire city is in black and yellow. It's like a religion.
I think more than most German cities, soccer does play a very large role in the identity of Dortmund. In October of 2000, the BVB became the first team in the Bundesliga to actually go public. Salaries for soccer players in the Bundesliga have gone up very dramatically. With such high prices, they thought that by going public, they would be able to compete better with big teams like Bayern Munich.
Unfortunately, that didn't go too well. Dortmund bought too many expensive players, high wages, and the club almost went bust in 2005.
The price of their shares, it has sometimes gone up, but mostly gone down since they made that decision. So on April 11th, 2017, the team was staying in a hotel on the outskirts of Dortmund.
Match days are always special in Dortmund. Everyone is looking forward to it. The team always meets in the same hotel ahead of matches.
They stayed in this hotel in order to have a kind of neutral space before games so that they could concentrate, be sort of isolated from distractions, things like that.
Everyone was pretty optimistic. They had a chance to go really far, maybe into the finals. I was in the office and getting ready for match day. I was going to meet with a friend, a fellow Dortmund supporter, in a pub. As always, the fans are very excited about matches.
On that day, they were heading to play in the quarterfinal against AS Monaco at Signal Iduna Stadium, which is in the center of Dortmund. Shortly before 7 p.m., the players of the team boarded their official team bus.
When the bus took off the parking lot of the hotel and turned on the street, there were three detonations, 3 bombs that exploded and hit the bus of Dortmund.
3 explosions occurred close to the Borussia Dortmund team bus. The B team bus had just left the hotel. The explosions destroyed 2 windows in the rear part of the bus.
People screamed, people jumped to the ground.
The fellow Dortmund fan I was supposed to watch the match with, he called me and said, turn on the TV, there was an attack on the Dortmund bus. And I thought he was like, that was impossible.
Some of the players screamed at the driver to keep driving as fast as possible because they were worried that people might storm the bus.
German investigators say the explosive devices used in the attack on the Borussia Dortmund bus contained metal pins and that one had pierced a seat headrest.
Unbeknownst to the team members, the actual mastermind behind the attack was, as they were disembarking the bus, was actually eating steak and sweet potatoes at the hotel they had just left.
Authorities are attempting to verify a letter left at the scene claiming jihadists were behind the attack.
Because there had been a series of attacks by Islamic terrorists in Germany and Europe, there was widespread suspicion in the media that this was another Islamic terror attack. 3 letters were found at the site of the bombing that took credit for the attack on behalf of Islamic State. There were, however, reasons to doubt this particular narrative.
Would actually be a surprise if ISIS were actually part of this attack. Possibly could be employed by other groups like the far right wing to try and shift the blame.
The letters had some strange qualities. They were written in a strange German that used big, sophisticated words, but had basic grammar mistakes, as if someone was native German speaker but pretending to be a foreign person.
Federal investigators have detained one man suspected of links to Islamist terrorism, one of 2 suspects whose apartments were raided this morning.
Shortly after the bombing, a man in Austria named Rudolf, who was a big BVB fan, he noticed that something strange was going on the stock market related to the team's shares. He emailed the lawyers of BVB, who then forwarded that email on to investigators. The email stated that someone had bought 60,000 BVB put options, a wager that the value of the shares of the team would fall below a certain amount at a certain date.
Why would someone buy that ahead of a match and then 3 bombs go off? Something isn't right here.
For the person to make money off of that, it required the stock to go down quite a bit in a fairly short period of time. And it wouldn't just be the team losing a match, it would require something much bigger than that. There was another big red flag about this purchase, which is the fact that it had actually been made, number one, on the day of the bombing, but also from an IP address that had been traced to the actual hotel where the bombing had taken place.
When 3 explosions targeted the bus carrying the Borussia Dortmund footballers on April the 11th, written notes left at the scene claimed the attack was the work of ISIL. The truth, as is now alleged, is remarkable.
On April 21st, the police arrested a man in a southern German city called Tübingen. He was on his way to work, and his name was Sergei Venergold. He seemed like an unlikely suspect because he had no known connections to the Islamic terror world. He didn't seem like a far-right extremist. He didn't seem like a left-wing extremist either. He seemed to be a completely unremarkable young man.
A 28-year-old German-Russian man, named only as Sergei W., stayed in the same hotel as the players on the night before the bombing. He specifically requested an upper room overlooking the bushes where the explosive devices were hidden.
The media dissected why he would do that, what was his past.
He had been inspired by the 2015 terror attack in Paris. And he noticed that in the aftermath of the attack, the stocks of French companies went down. And he believed that if an attack took place that was directed at a specific company, that the decrease in stock price for that company would be even more dramatic.
It never occurred to anyone that someone would do that out of greed.
We now know that the suspect bought 3 different derivatives on the Borussia Dortmund shares. With all these derivatives, he bet on falling shares. The suspect bought the majority of these financial products on the 11th of April, the day of the attack.
If the plot had been completely successful and the stock had reached a value of 0, Venergold would have made up to 570,000 euros, or the equivalent of about $608,000. Ultimately, the plan completely backfired.
The attacker, Sergei Venergold, didn't make any money. In fact, he lost money.
In court, he would be extremely quiet. He usually kept his hands clasped together. One of the lawyers actually commented that he had never seen a defendant act so calmly. Venergold had served some time in the German military. From that information and from online research, he was able to figure out how to assemble remote detonated bombs that would do what he hoped to do. There were a few days of extremely emotional testimony including the soccer players who described doubting whether or not they could ever play another game again.
It brought everything back up, and it didn't quite help them to kind of process what was going on.
Throughout it all, he sat there completely silent. The big mystery that was swirling around the trial was the question of why. He may have simply done it because he wanted to impress a woman. Rebecca is a young woman who has a very troubled home life. She ultimately sees her relationship with Weinergold as an opportunity to leave that troubled home. Weinergold is a Russian immigrant to Germany. He speaks with an accent. He has anxiety in large groups of Germans. She begins to resent the fact that he has these fears and feels a little bit trapped. Rebecca attempts to dump him on multiple occasions, and he threatens to commit suicide if she leaves him. Weinergold apparently told Rebecca that she would soon be seeing a surprise. After being dumped via text message, he apparently began planning for this attack in earnest. Weinergold was charged with 28 counts of attempted murder, which carried a maximum sentence in Germany of life in prison. He claimed that he had nothing to do with the attack, but as time went on, he admitted that he had actually been the person who had built the explosives and had set them off. But he claimed that he didn't want to actually kill anybody. Ultimately, Weinergold didn't receive the harshest possible sentence. He was given 14 years in prison, but it's still a considerable amount in jail in Germany.